Perfect. Yes. So this is still the beginning of me trying to figure out what's the best way to do our Seaquaria office hours. Again, this is a once a month short little chat between myself as the Seaquaria coordinator with teachers like yourself who are running the program for your school this year. And as time goes on, I want to invite more and more teachers to come on to chat about their experience with the Seaquarium and how they use it in different lesson plans. And I'm also here to answer any questions anyone has about the program. This year is very exciting because we actually got 3 or 4 brand new teachers who are just starting to use the Seaquarium in their lessons. So I thought this would be also a really good resource for those new teachers as well. But today we do have Jackie Kosh, who teaches at one of the Victoria schools, and she uses her Seaquarium in almost every subject, right, Jackie?
Pretty much. Yeah, you can tie it into so much right now. So it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And Jackie, I actually want to bring this attention to you. How long have you been using the Seaquarium for?
Well, we've had it with our aquarium in our school was the first aquarium ever to be put in here, I guess, in 1995. So over the years, it's changed hands. So I've taken, this is just my second year with it personally, but I've always been interested, help bring kids to it, utilized it, but not taken control of it in this manner like I have right now. So yeah, it's been here for as long as I've been here. And this is my 15th year at Vic West. So
Wow.
yeah, so a lot of years.
Wow. And I understand you're doing your master's project with the
Yes.
Seaquarium as a focus. Can you
Yes.
describe a little bit more the basis of your research, kind of what inspired you to pursue this project and how it's fitting in with your teaching every day?
Yeah. Well, I'm super passionate about our local marine life. And so to tie the ecosystem that we have in our school with my own passions, with what I'm learning at my master's right now. So I'm in the curriculum and instruction department with a focus on language and literacy. So this is wrapping up in a few months. I'll be finished my master's. I've focused my final project on informational reading and writing. So tied in so beautifully with the Seaquarium. Seeing that we just desperately need, especially in teaching intermediate kids. So I teach grade 4, 5, that just research has shown that typically over since the last 20 years, there's been just informational reading and writing doesn't get taught to the extent it needs to. So you need something engaging and authentic. The Seaquarium is that because the kids are so tuned in to their environment, to the sense of place around them. So that has, for me, has propelled me into utilizing it in a daily fashion. The kids are down there, like even today, so I always do independent reading, and they're down there instead with their clipboards, and they're like, can we read by observing and by writing? And then, so it's taking it to a whole other level of inspiration for them as well. So my top reasons for bringing it in, of course, was to tie it into my master's with doing informational reading and writing. The idea over the years, what I found here at the Seaquarium, as much as I've loved it, it's always lacked that piece of resource for kids that come down to the tank. So families would come and sit pre-COVID in front of the Seaquarium. People would always be asking. We have those lovely laminated cards that we have been given. But for kids to access it in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, to find out what are those animals, what do they eat, what do they do, I'm like, how can we make it accessible for everybody? So my kids, the project that we're going to do is create a resource that will be in the school, at the Seaquarium, in the library, in our classroom as well, that will talk about the animals we have in the tank. Tied into my poll plan at the end of it is to be as part of a take action plan for how can we protect our oceans. So pulling it into the Salish seas, what can we do to be proactive as well as learning about them. So, and the kids, instead of doing, because I had this booklet is so awesome. I know this has been used on your website as well. Great piece to start. So the kids are starting with this research piece. So they're doing an inquiry. So from that, they're going to then create a comic book fashion. So the accessibility for Ks and 1s and 2s, they can actually look at the pictures and see the animals in action instead of reading something like this, because they won't be able to. they can draw on the pictures from kids, so kids supporting kids in their learning. So that was the big takeaway with it as well. And one other main part for why I'm doing it is that research, of course, in the last 20 years has shown that in grade 4, there's something called the 4th grade slump. Kids enter, content has changed. It's harder for them. They've K to 3, they're reading or learning to read. They come to grade 4 to grade 12. Now they're reading to learn. And so we tend sometimes to see a dip in kids' grades. And so this way, exposing them to how do you read and write informational text is really what's propelling me to go forward with this, to teach them in an authentic way, actually. So it's a lot of information. Look at me, blah, blah, blah.
No,
I did have a coffee. I did slam a coffee before we started.
What I didn't realize, because I'm not a classroom teacher. I'm kind of like, I see my job as that fun aunt that goes into the classrooms for a short time, bringing all the cool critters, and then I get to leave without having to do any classroom management. But I didn't realize that there was this 4th grade slump where you see kids' grades dipping at this grade. So how long have you worked on this project for?
This is only since the summer. So my research, so for the last year, so the literacy and language program, we are exposed and with so much information. So our program now the last year is to do a literature review on an area of interest. And so for me, of course, informational reading and writing, teaching an intermediate grade is really critical, because I've just seen it over the years. And parents come in, they're like, oh my gosh, what happened to my child? Because usually they come up, they have a certain grade level, they come in, they're actually getting grades in grade 4. There's more language, there's more content. So it tied in really well for me to take on informational reading and writing. So that's where I have chosen to do it. And it's not all kids that have an issue with it or a problem with their grade levels, but it's just building them the skills so then when they carry on in future grades, they're more competent to be able to read informational text. How do you find the information? What's the diagrams for? What are the graphs for? What's the table of contents? What's the glossary? You know, just all those main things that are so critical for their comprehension, but maybe aren't getting that because they haven't been exposed to it enough. So anyways, I felt really passionate about that, as well as, of course, the Seaquarium, which I love so much. And it's just, my phone is blowing up with pictures and videos. Like, I don't even know what to do with it anymore, because it's so great. So the kids also feel that passion for it as well.
That's wonderful. So because right now this project is inspired by the Seaquarium, do you think you'll do the same kind of project with your students next year?
No.
The same kind of comic books? No?
No, do you know why? Because I mean, I know personally I'll need to take it to another level, because I seem to every year, the resource will be a resource that will actually stay here in the school. For me, I would like to take it to another level of some sort. I'm sure we'll get we'll do something here that I feel will be really valuable for the kids. The big picture is to connect them to their sense of place. Right now, not being able to go out and take them on field trips to go down to explore the intertidal zones. I'm hoping next year that will be open and available for us again. So if that is, then I will take it probably to a different level, and maybe it's, I don't know what, but well, for sure be still bringing it all into the classroom, but maybe at a deeper level at the end of April when this project's finished. I'm not quite sure. I know that I'll keep pursuing it further and seeing how deep we can go with it, especially because of what's going on with our oceans. And we really do need to protect our environment, and I think it's something that we're all kids are really aware of climate change, aware of the problems that we have with pipelines going in, and the effects of our orcas not having enough salmon, and they're very aware at this age, and they feel very passionate as well. So anyway, so I don't know what I'll do with it next year, but I definitely know we'll be doing deep learning with it. But I don't know what.
That reminds me, I saw a headline today. The Victoria sewage plant is up and running now. And I saw that a lot of people were commenting about how clean the water looked all of a sudden. Who would have thought?
Crazy. It's crazy. Oh my gosh.
So I actually want to ask you, When you were doing your literature review, what stood out to you the most? Was there a trend that you found while you were reading through different research papers on informational reading and writing?
Definitely. So I guess, again, this is what's propelling me to do it is the lack of it in classrooms for various reasons. Elementary based, usually fictional reading tends to be easier to teach kids at younger grades. So there was a big study that started this all in 20 years ago, basically, that it was a grade 1 research study on how much informational text was in the classrooms. And they came out that there was only 3.6 minutes a day for grades 3 to 5 was spent on informational reading and writing, and only just over a minute a day for less for grades K to 2. So that was a real shock, and really started this whole research on. Scholars are just all over it saying, what's going on? Why are teachers not teaching informational reading and writing? What is the issues behind it? So it came down to lack of resources, time, not knowing how to do it properly, not knowing where to focus their energy on. Just a variety of questions and things that were shocking to me, again, but knowing that perhaps with teaching in this valuable way, using the Seaquarium could help, maybe other teachers be inspired as well. I know here in the school, we have teachers that come down all the time and ask me about it and ask if I can share lessons about what we're doing here. So anyways, but the literature review, definitely, I mean, it was the lack of teachers teaching it in the elementary grades, but also how important it is for kids from grade 4 onward that they have to understand how to read and write content based, because that's where it goes more. Again, the kids are then reading to learn versus learning to read after grade 3. So
That's such a funny distinction, reading to learn rather than learning to read.
yeah, and I tell the kids that all the time. And I had one of my boys, he's at the back. He took so long one day when I said it to them, and he's just did this big light bulb moment. He's like, just get it now. He's like, I get it. And it was such an awesome moment. I'm like, in your year of teaching, if one student comes out with something like that, it's so inspirational. I'm like, yay. So anyways, but yeah, no, that has been throughout all of my research. That's the very common thread that keeps coming up over and over and over again, and why it's so important to tie it in for kids where it's authentic and engaging, because it can be very boring for them at times. Sometimes kids aren't into science, and sometimes kids aren't into social studies, those content-based areas. So how can we make it engaging? How can we make it authentic? Well, let's connect them to what's around our environment. Well, we're surrounded, we're on an island. Let's get into our local marine life. And so that's really been an amazing pull and for the kids and interest for them.
Yeah. Do you also get students kind of coming up to you and saying, oh, I've seen this animal at the beach before. I want to work specifically on this one animal because I've seen it before in my personal life outside of school time.
Definitely. And actually, we were watching the 3 YouTube videos that you and Maya did, and the kids, I showed them to them earlier on in the year, and we just watched them again this week, because I told them when they have their winter break, get down to the beach if you can. So we watched them again, and every time they watch them, they're more inspired by it. So of course the hermit crabs come up, and there are issues with peeling back eelgrass or the surf grass, concerned about what's going to touch them and how could they do it, and looking after the rocks and covering them, as you showed, with the habitats and being careful with them. They talk a lot about the hermit crabs that don't have the shells and how that creeps them out. And, anyways, it's been great. And I've told them, like, so when you're going down there, be aware, be alert, see what's in your environment, come back to us. Let's see, because with this project we're doing, some of the kids are toying between what they want, what animal they want to, or species they want to take on. And some have surprised me and are all keen about the kelp. And I'm like, I love that. Who would think the kelp over the sculpin or the nudibranch, or I don't know, but so they are connecting, because this is a great neighborhood right here at Vic West, because they have access to the waterway, and so they are down there. So, but I'm trying to encourage them to get down to Clover Point, because I'm just a little bit further, because where you took 2 of those videos were down, or one of those videos was down there. So
Kitty Islet's also a little bit of feedback there, I apologize. But Kitty Islet's also a great place to kick the kids out during low tide because you see there's just a lot of aggregating sea anemones there.
Yes.
And it's
Wow.
really interesting to see them just in their environment, under the sand.
Yes, and they love it. And, you know, even for them to show those YouTube videos are so great because they're short enough that you keep the kids engaged. And for them to come out watching them and saying, I like the splash zone better than, you know, the low intertidal zone, like just to hear the language happening so casually is what's so fulfilling as well. It's such so great, such great learning. You've done a really great job having those videos put on. It's really helpful. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm really happy to hear that feedback. That's why those videos are there. We're hoping to encourage kids using those terminology because it's the terminology, if they decide to pursue marine sciences, those are the terminology that they'll start using as well. Now, let's pull back a little bit from the videos and back to the written, the written text. Do you have any examples of some of your kids' work that you don't mind sharing with us?
Well, you know, they have all their Seaquarium. I can just, if you just pause.
Of course. Hi, Kathy. I saw that you joined there. Oh, you're muted, so I can't hear you.
It turned out I'm only getting the what's the fish newsletter. I'm not getting the Seaquarium newsletter, so I couldn't get in. I was ready to get in at 3, but I had to call WFT and get them to send me the link.
Oh no!
I don't know why yeah. Anyway, so now, yeah.
Yeah, but you're here now, so
yeah,
that's awesome.
I just have.
Yes, Jackie, go ahead.
I was just going to show you. Sorry, this just for today's example. So I made an observation page for the kids. So when they go down to the tank, so when they're down there, I want their learning to be purposeful, as well as it's another great, fabulous self-regulation tool for kids as well. Besides just a calming environment and place to go, they're also going down. So I'm like, okay, if you're going down there, you have 2 options. You can either book or they do this. And this was an example. I've had 2 kids today. So I made this sheet, this aquarium species, can you see that? Observation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, you're getting cut out there, Jackie. Sorry.
Sorry. So I don't know, can you see that?
Yeah.
A little bit. So what they do is they're writing down the date. They say the name, the species. I wrote down some observable changes. So are they eating, shedding, swimming? Is there a color change, etc.? And then so this one, for instance, was on the kelp. So for today, yellow and slimy, has holes and rips. Black looks smooth and green and yellow and brown. The blood star is chilling in the kelp, and now he's in the ground. And so then they talk about where the kelp is. Where's the kelp located? Well, it's on the grass, it's on the glass, it's on the rock. So I put kelp in last week for the urchins, that's why. So this one was the kelp, and then this is another one on the limpet. So they are really excited about the limpet. Came down running, trying to figure out, is the antenna on the limpet, is that where they feed, or is this part where they feed in the inside of the mouth? So it's just the curiosity and the wonder, which is again what is so amazing, because they're asking questions constantly and they're wanting to look it up. And so that's just some of the things that we do with it. The main part of the research, or it's not research that I'm doing, the project that I'm doing will really come in January, February, March. So that will be when it gets all put together. We're just just getting our feet really wet with it right now. So, but I will be happy to share it as progression happens. It'll be fun.
I'm so excited to see all your students' projects. It's going to be so good. In your opinion, with the Seaquarium and them the students being able to observe the tank at their own pace, has it really pulled the class together as a community rather than a student kind of lingering on the outside? Has the Seaquarium allowed them to kind of share observations together?
definitely has drawn kids in. So I had one that wanted to go all the time. And then when they heard that one was down there, then others wanted to join her. And it's been so amazing because it goes back to that conversation of learning together and the excitement that they have. So, I'll have 4 or 5 down there at a time, enjoying it, coming back and talking in the classroom, which makes others. So definitely has built a larger community of interest than because some kids, as much as I want them fully engaged, not everybody's going to be fully engaged in it. But the majority are definitely. So it for sure has drawn the community closer around it that way. Definitely.
And my burning question, how are you balancing teaching 5 days a week in your normal day job and working on your project at the same time? Because I imagine this is so many hours just put into a literature review. It takes a very long time.
Honestly, it's a bit manic. It's been crazy. As I said, I don't know. I'm on such minimal sleep right now. I said that to my husband last night. I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like, who am I? I just don't even I don't recognize myself. I don't even know. It's been really, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. I'm glad my son is growing up because it would be really challenging doing it with a younger child. But I don't know. I think, you know what it is? I'm so passionate about what I'm doing. The learning is so fabulous. I am so excited to see the end result with the project, with the Seaquarium. I am so in love with our local marine life and the environment, and my kids that I teach, the grade level, they inspire me every day to keep going. Honestly, like at the end of the day, I'm like the kids. I self-regulate myself. I go spend time at the tank by myself. Like everyone's laughing at me because I'm either my arms way down the tank, I'm half soaked, or I'm just sitting out there taking video. Like it's just I don't know. I'm really so thrilled that it's come together so well that I'm able to utilize something in teaching and in learning with the kids and hopefully inspire the kids, because as I tell them, you are our environmental warriors. You're the ones that will the future of our oceans, and you can help protect them. So we just really have lots of conversations about it. That's inspiration. So from them all.
That's amazing. I'm honestly so excited that you're so passionate about our program, because the Seaquaria program, it's a lot of work to set those tanks up. But every time we go in, any of my educators, we go in, we see the kids. Every kid that passes us have a million questions. They're firing at us as we're elbow deep trying to clean up the gravel. It's so wonderful.
You're like a movie star to the kids because they know you from the video. Like when I show them the YouTube, it's like, oh, Yuko, you're like an old, like a friend, like that's marine specialist. Like they just, it's so funny that
Oh man.
yeah, it's so great. It's really neat.
This is my only fame at the moment.
Oh, they love it. They love it.
Since your project hasn't reached its completion yet, but from what you've done so far, kind of setting the foundation, what was the most memorable student work or outcome of you teaching using the Seaquarium, like more specifically with the informational reading and writing? Like, has there been a student that drastically improved their reading while you're conducting your project?
Well, the project's still ongoing, so I think it will really show itself in April when it's done. But that being said, to have kids so engaged, just excited to be reading the informational text is awesome, because it can be a bit meaty, but really. They're so interested that it keeps them motivated to read. And that's what you want. You want kids motivated, you want them engaged, you need it to be authentic. And if you can hit all 3 things, which the Seaquarium is doing that for us right now, which is great. Like yesterday, one of my students was reading, I have kids bringing in things to me about that are connecting to the local marine life. So I had another student come to my desk and he was asking about the Seaquarium, and I said, well, that's a really great question about this animal. I said, why don't you look in this booklet? And so he's just was so excited. He's going through it. And then I had another one. Then of course we had this one. And so he was looking at that one and he's like, I just have so much to learn. He's like, I'm just so excited. And he's just seeing that passion again with the kids is so great. So that in itself, so their engagement is so important. That's what's huge. And it will show itself more as in the next couple of months for sure. So
yeah. So those texts are quite advanced. There's some really big vocabulary words in it, and your students are in grade 4. How
grade 4 and 5, yes.
How do they tackle those big scientific words that they don't understand right off the bat?
We learn them together. So we're doing right now, I do word study. So part of this learning about informational reading and writing, there's 3 areas to teach kids: text features, text structures, and academic vocabulary. So if they don't have those 3 things, they won't be able to understand it. So part of the learning is in the academic vocabulary. So what are those big words that we need to pull apart? So we just explore them. We find little words in the big words. We see if there's a root that we know in that word. So they're learning word study right now on top of it. So we just try to be as scientific as we can with it. Yeah. So, I mean, and we know it's never going to be perfect. We can't always pronounce everything perfectly, but we do the best that we can. So, but they love it. They do love learning more scientific words for sure. It's exciting for them. They really like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't even pronounce half the scientific names I'm supposed to know. My tongue just doesn't work that way.
But YouTube is great, or or going online and just putting the word in and putting the little microphone on, and we can just put it over through the smartboard, and so we can just hear how it sounds phonetically, and then it helps us, and we just do the best that we can.
So. Yeah. So what else? This is coming from someone who don't really understand the broadness of informational reading and writing. So besides understanding, besides word study, what else is involved in helping kids improve informational reading and writing?
Doing it, really. It's being engaged in it, and you would do it naturally. So through science and social studies, that is what it is. But you also can do it in English language arts. So if you're looking at genres, you can take, like, I have a whole bookshelf dedicated to informational reading and writing, or reading, I should say. So you just bring in texts of all sorts. You expose them to it. You put it up on your walls. You have it around. So you just immerse them in it. So it's just part of their daily experience. So that's the key to it, but it's those 3 areas. Like you can, so for instance, I'm doing informational reading and writing. So it's the big genre is nonfiction, and I'm taking an aspect of it. There's also, you can do poetry, you can do compare, contrast, problem solution. There's so many other aspects of it, but I'm focusing on the natural and social world. I'm focusing on informational reading and writing. So I've taken a different bent to it. So it's more combining science with English language arts. So but we naturally have that available to us, teachers do. It's embedded all throughout the curriculum. It's just drawing it out.
Okay. On a slight tangent, are you also incorporating First Nations curricular linkages as well?
Definitely, absolutely, which is brilliant. The grade 4 curriculum is particular. I mean, it's the new curriculum now is Indigenous and learning is weaved all throughout it, but the grade 4 curriculum particularly is heavy Indigenous learning and perspectives, which is brilliant. We have one of the textbooks I'm using right now. I'm focusing on the land and how do Indigenous people view the land, what's their perspective. So we're looking at the uses of it as well. And there's some fabulous videos that I have connect with one of these textbooks that we're using that are relevant and current. And we're focusing on the water, of course, because we're looking at the Seaquarium and tying this into the project. And it naturally is happening so well this year with my project, but tying it into Indigenous perspectives. Why do we care for the land? So looking at the reciprocal relationship, so how you treat the land. So Indigenous perspective is whatever you do the land will give back to you. So, and with the oceans as well. This one video in particular, we showed this Autumn Peltier, she's a grade 12 or a 12-year-old student. She, Indigenous girl from Ontario, had met our Prime Minister, spoke so strongly about how sick our oceans are. Anyways, I can even speak about it and be in tears about it. I showed this video to the kids. She was so just compelling, her words, and how we must do things to help the animals, to help the species. Everything is so important that so I showed the video to the kids and we talked about, critical thinking. What could we go for? How could we go further with this? What could we do? And the kids were so inspired by her. They saw a student close to their age where they're like, well, if she can do it, we can do it. What can we do for our local area? And it was so great. So anyway, so going back to our social studies and the Indigenous perspective, it's so easily tied in. The Salish Sea is named after, we're living in the Squamish Nation right here. We are, we're so part of the land. It's just infused in everything that we do. So we're also looking at how are the clams being used, and we're looking at the food sources and what's being used from the Indigenous current uses and past uses. So anyway, so it's just so much we are doing with it. And that's another piece that I wanted to tie into my project. The project's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but I'm thinking the resource for the school, I'll teach the kids, of course, those main points, but also keeping the take action piece. What can we do further to protect our oceans, but also teach the kids about what do we have in this aquarium? What's local to us here in the project, that the book that we'll make for the school. So yeah.
That's
A lot. It's a lot.
I am blown away. I'm so impressed that you're able to do this huge project while teaching in the middle of a pandemic. The pandemic is doing no one any favors. This is a bit of a funny thought that came to my head. If we had originally put in, say, a regular tank that wasn't stocked full of native species, so not quite as situated in our place, do you think that the project will have as big of an impact on the kids?
If it wasn't local?
If it wasn't local?
No, I don't think so. I mean, of course, kids, kids will get, I think if you inspire them in different ways, but honestly, it's the connection that they have to this area. This is their area they play in. Like some of these kids actually live right down by, the water here. So they are so inspired. The gorge is right here that I think that it's more, I think because it gives them that sense of place. That is what's tying them to it. And because they know they can go to the beach with their families, they can share their knowledge with their families, they can lift that rock and find that little crab, or find the sea anemone or something. They just can connect with it. So I don't know, I just believe that because they're making that connection is what's really why they're so interested in it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
If another teacher wanted to also work on informational learning, reading and writing in their own classroom, how would you recommend them to start?
Teaching them how to read the text first. And that's why do we have a table of contents? Why are the words bolded? Why is that diagram there? Why do you have that graph there? What's the glossary for? Teaching them how to actually read it, because all of those things are so critical for their comprehension of the text. They can lose out on really important information if they're not drawing attention to teaching the kids why those parts are important, because I find kids just think we read books just because we have to read them, but there's actually fictional books are so different from nonfiction books, so we have to teach them the difference. Yeah, so I think that's really important to do that, and to teach them the vocabulary, as we talked about. Some of these words are so big, if they don't understand it, their comprehension's not going to be good. And again, that goes back to why we see that dip in grade 4, that 4th grade slump that's so well known with kids, is that they are not taught how to read and write informational text like they should be. So So I would say teach them how to do it first, definitely, and then do a lot of read alouds with the kids, and I do that often. I read, they all have their books, but I read to them so I can stop, I can model my own thinking and how to explore what I'm reading and just help them in their own time when they're by themselves reading that text. How can they comprehend it? So that's another thing I would do is say do a lot of read alouds with the kids. Would be good.
As an adult, I find myself reaching for nonfiction books over fiction books a lot of the times. Like the fiction book can be something really interesting about our ocean ecosystem, but I would always tend to go for nonfiction more. This is coming from an adult who did not get that much training as a kid to read nonfiction books, to read informational books. Are you hoping that in the future your students will feel more confident in picking up a nonfiction book, an informational book, and learning from that? Do you think this would be a measurable outcome for their future?
Definitely, definitely. I research like I have read so many articles in the last 6 months that I mean hundreds and hundreds of pages and studies that show the absolute increase of kids' knowledge when they are taught how to read it properly. That's why I feel again so passionate about it, because I think that I haven't in my teaching career, I've taught for 18 years. I haven't spent enough time teaching kids like I should have taught them. And I'm so grateful for this master's program because I feel like it's given me and the kids another opportunity to go deeper in with learning more. And it's so critical. I mean, anything now, especially we're living in such an informational age. This is where we're living. Outside of school, when the kids go into their future careers, they need to know how to navigate informational reading and writing. They have to. So it's critical for their success. Yeah, not only in school but out in future. So yeah.
This is Kathy. Can I make a comment there?
Please.
I wonder if that also helps students to recognize within fictional books that there's actually a lot of natural history or whatever that's built into that book, so that they might actually be learning factual stuff at the same time, but of course have to have the nonfiction background through whatever route to recognize when something is made up and when something is actual. You know what I mean?
I totally. And you know what's really interesting right now is that a lot of the informational books now are fictional informational. So it's a very common thing. So it's tying kids into it in trying to engage them in a different way.
Yeah.
And the kids now this year we're doing a huge genre study of really deeply of looking at all sorts of genres and finding the characteristics in each genre and how do you tell the difference. And that's a great point because that's what we're doing. And it's very, and it is the new trend. Just trying to pull as many readers in as possible.
Yeah. So and it also kind of gets them started on that whole critical thinking part of reading as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, so critical. It's just, we're in such an interesting time right now of education and there's so many different shifts and changes and there's a lot changing, but we also have a really neat group of like the kids and I've just noticed this last, I don't know, maybe 5 years, there is just a real change. Kids are different. They are really aware more so of what's happening in their world and they really want to do something. They just need the tools to do it. Like they're concerned for their own like future and for, they're really passionate. They really are as well. I've noted every year they're just so grateful to have the kids want to engage with what I'm doing as well. So it's not they're not doing it because they have to do it, but they actually really want to do it. They want to get down. We are so disappointed we can't get down to the beach. Oh my gosh, I'm like still hoping and fingers crossed that maybe we can. I'm like, let's get our boots on. Let's go.
So if you are able to get to a beach in Vic West, there's one that you might be aware of already, I'm not sure. It's on the end of it's at the end of the path past Spinnakers. So it's kind of between Catherine Street and Mary Street.
You know
And
what?
it has that built up structure that the fellow used to with the driftwood and that kind of thing.
I know where you are. You know what? And I haven't ever taken the kids there, but I have to watch the tides because I have seen, and when I do the sea walk in the summertime, I've seen people down there. They must do some indigenous work down there. I think
Well,
we're in
we do collecting down there for Westwind and Seaquaria as well. But we did programs with Vic West years ago when that community map was happening.
yes, Lorene Brain.
Yeah.
Lorene Brain, you did that with it. Yeah, and I was here when Lorene was doing all that big project as well. Yeah.
But that beach is amazing because when you get the spring tides in April, May, and June, you find things there that you find at Clover Point. You find red sea cucumbers. So it would be really fun to get the kids down there in the spring.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So is that the time? So what would you say, like March, April, May?
Well, that's when we get back into really nice low tides that are in the middle of the day, and you can kind of plan it. Her group of special needs students were amazing. You saw they planned that whole thing, and we taught them how to read the tide so they could figure out which. But I think with the project you guys are doing, that would be a great culminating.
Oh my gosh, they would love it so much. They would love it so much. And I would love to do that with them. That's so excellent. Thank you for suggesting that because, you know, we've been taking the buses. We haven't done it this year because we're not allowed to, but we were taking buses downtown. But to get down to Clover Point, the buses, they're 4s and 5s, but it's a long walk from the end of Douglas all the way down to Clover Point to do some beach combing and come back again. Yeesh, like it would be, but this is easy. We can
that
walk,
one's
no
easy.
problem.
Yeah, you get there in probably 15 minutes or something.
Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
And we'd be happy to help out with that kind of thing too, to have extra bodies there. Yeah.
That would be so incredible. I would love that so much. Thank you.
Of course, COVID restrictions allowing, I will be happy to run a beach program for your students.
It would be so incredible. Would love that so much. Yeah.
I'm already famous with their students, so I might as well.
You are the YouTube star.
Oh man.
I think that's a really, really important point actually, Yuko, because I think kids start to see you in other places too, and they recognize you and you become a role model. I think that's really it. You should be proud of that.
You really should. And you know what? They love it. Putting those videos on, they get so excited to see you. They listen to you. Like it's amazing. Like they really do. It's great. Yeah. You come up often in here in our classroom, your name. So
I wasn't expecting that. I was just like, oh, these are fun to make. Our office is closed. There was a comment that I wanted to make earlier about the fiction and nonfiction. With today's technological age and all of like the fake news articles, how to spot real facts, how to find real references and credible references, your project in teaching your students how to pick those informational pieces out is so critical for when they're older and they have to find their own references, they have to find their own credible news source to understand what the current events are. That it's such a critical skill that they're going to have.
It's huge. It's huge. And actually that is going to be a piece of it. The research part is challenging in the sense that for teaching my grade level, it's not like kids are in grade 4. They are in grade 4 and 5, but it doesn't mean they all read at a grade 4 and 5 level. They span the whole range of reading abilities. So I have to find information for them to draw and proper websites to find it. And you're right, like we do have a lot through the district we have a research and inquiry area where the kids can go into the Children's World Book, and there's different places that they can go, but it's still hard to find those facts. So, I mean, it takes time. There is something I wanted to show them, which was a good point. It's to do with this octopus. I don't know, it's a very famous, article, but it's a big hoax, and I forget the title of it, but I'm going to show the kids it because it is you have to read through it, and it seems like this amazing story, but it ends up being fake. And so it's going to show them to determine, is this real or is this fake? And so I thought, using that with the Seaquarium, it's a great tie-in as well, because it's the marine animals, and how do we tell if things
Right.
real news or not. So we are going through that, but great point, because it is, they have to know it. They are bombarded. They live in such an informational world. It's crazy. So they do at this age believe everything. Everything.
And some of the hard part with the animals and plants around here is that all those questions that they ask are, not all that stuff is known. And a lot of times if you go look up information, they'll find informations in general, say about a cucumber, but it's not necessarily true for that particular one from here that they're looking at.
Exactly.
So it's hard to pull all that stuff together. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, it's like the have you all watched The Octopus Teacher on Netflix yet?
Yeah.
So of course
Yeah.
I bawled my eyes out, and I came to school and I said to the kids, "You must watch this. You must." But so they and some of them did, and it's interesting. But they thought that this was our area. So again, it's like, as you're saying, it's not, and you have to aren't the octopus. We're not going to find those octopi here, so we have to look at what do we have here versus So it's a great point. Yeah, you really have to teach them to look where to search for our local area. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the answers aren't always there either for that.
Right, exactly. Which is great to let them know that too. You're not always going to find it. I'm hoping to for me, the idea will be to, when we do our research project, will be to keep it at as basic at this level as possible, being elementary school, wanting the little ones. See, I'm hoping again, like with having intermediate kids, they'll be the teachers for the young kids. So like that, keep it the language more simple, less complicated, and so they can all access it. So
Cool.
That's amazing. So we did launch, I just created a new page on our website for any projects that teachers send me that their students have done. So that's if you're willing to share and it's okay with the students and their families, I would love to share some of those projects on our website.
definitely.
And I think it'll be such a great spot for other teachers like yourself to kind of garner inspirations for different student projects and how to teach different subjects using the Seaquarium as a base, especially because the new curriculum is all place-based information.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing. It's just such a this aquarium. I mean, I don't stop talking. My family, all I do is talk about it. Is my mom. I'm sending pictures to my mom on the text. I'm like, Mom, hold on. You have to see this one. It's so, I think they need to be everywhere in every school because it's so incredibly valuable. It's such amazing learning. Anyways, I'm such a supporter and fan. Like, I would go canvas it. I don't know. I don't even know what I can do.
Well, you remember Lori Burley, eh?
Yes.
When you were there. So we were working with her class, and that was exactly what happened. She moved to Campus View as vice principal, and she called me 3 weeks into the term and said, "Kathy, I can't teach without a Seaquarium. Can you get one here?" And then she moved off to Tillicum, and the same thing.
Yes.
But
that's it, because when you see the value in it, there's so much value to it. And you see the kids, like, you wouldn't believe, I mean, I'm sure when you come to, like, you walk down the hallway and there's always a child there. There's always an EA taking a student there. There's always somebody self-regulating. There's somebody watching. It's such a place of learning. And that's why I feel like it's just, I don't know, it's so important that we have them. And thank you for you and Yogi to start this baby, like in 95, I guess it was, so long ago, to do this. It's so great. Yeah.
There was something on the tip of my tongue there, and I've forgotten, but it'll come back to me after.
We are getting close to 4 o'clock, but before we kind of wrap up, I do have a new resource I want to show you, Jackie.
Ooh, I like that. That's exciting.
Rolene, during her term with us, actually created a set of intertidal knowledge cards.
My gosh.
So it starts with the Salish Sea and a little bit of information about our Salish Sea.
Incredible.
And then a breakdown of the word intertidal, because that's the type of animals we focused in this set of cards. And then we have a fully colored image of the animal
That's so
and
great.
Aren't they
information.
wonderful?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So free to download on our website, and you just print it double-sided, and because it's we formatted on the regular A4 size paper, so you can print it from any computer.
Oh my
Um,
gosh,
you
they're
could,
gorgeous.
yeah.
So you
So
can
I
laminate. Do you still have the laminator there? You could add with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Oh, I will laminate. I will. Well, you know, I did a book. I printed something off. What's one is it? Oh, let me just see. I think I laminate everything. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I had the. Well, here's. I mean, this one I laminated this. I mean, I have everything I can print off from your website. I laminate. So there was that other identification board. So that one's going to be laminated. Yes, that's so wonderful. Oh, so it's on this, it's on the World Fisheries site?
on Seaquaria's educated resource site.
How did I miss that? I'm on it all the time. Maybe I thought I already had it. Do you know, I bet you I thought I already had it. I probably think it's that one other booklet that, that's probably it.
Yes, this is something new. I haven't started advertising for it yet because I just haven't had time. I've just uploaded onto the website and kind of forgot I did that, and I forgot to tell all the teachers about it.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
That's so wonderful.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so good.
So we'll have a formal post on it, and I'm really hoping that besides teachers like yourself, I'm really hoping that parents and families and even homeschoolers are able to use that resource. It's not like we can install a Seaquarium in every home or every mall or library.
Why
So
not?
I think Kathy, there's only two people on the team right now.
I like your thinking.
We are a nonprofit, so human resources is kind of hard to come by.
We just have to find a rich benefactor.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, yes.
If anyone knows one, please send them my way.
I will. Believe me, as I said, I feel like I need to just go out and just get people to help fund this beautiful, beautiful site. Love it so much. So I can maybe in my letter to my parents, I can send them maybe the link that to find those cards maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do that. That would be great.
Yeah, if you email the parents of your students every day, because I know my younger sister who's in elementary school, her teacher emails us every Sunday. You could just include that link, and if you have a color printer, you can print out no problem. A cheaper option for that someone suggested to me was actually printing it on a hardier paper like cardstock, and this way, if you have to pay for lamination, this is a cheaper option and it's still hardy.
Definitely. No, that's good. Oh, that's great. No, thank you. I'm so excited. That's going to be so good.
I think this will tie into your project with informational.
Incredible.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it does have that fiction kind of feel to it, because we did end up using the format of my body is soft and compressed into shell, so it's a lot of first person speaking as the animal.
Great.
The information on the card.
But you know what's so great about that? Because my idea for the resource we're going to make for the kids will be sort of taking it, what's popular right now is graphic novels. So to have it in that format as well. So I'm going to put an actual real picture, but the kids are also going to do it in a panel sort of fashion, but also speak it like the animal speaking. So they're so excited to do it, and it's going to be so wonderful. I came across some research that had that for science-based learning for kids, and how that just helps them really understand the information well. So that's going to be perfect, because that will really actually help them. So, oh my gosh, it's like working so beautifully. It's so great.
There's also there's 4 cards on algae.
Look at that. And that's so, last year we had algae like crazy. This year, not so much, not like we did last year. Anyways, so good. So good.
Oh, happy to hear it. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this and allowing me to record our chat for today. I think a lot of the information that you brought out to our conversation is so useful for a lot of teachers. in just kind of thinking of how to incorporate the Seaquarium in more than just a science format, because the Seaquarium really does speak to our natural and local environment, and you can't have science in a vacuum. You can't have biology in a vacuum. It informs our everyday life, how we live, how we treat the land and even each other. That's I think the project that you're working on is just amazing. And I can't wait to see the final product from your students. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to see it too. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, both of you. Kathy, thank you so much.
Thank you,
For
Jackie.
what, oh my gosh, for what you've done. You and Yogi, I just have so much respect for both of you. I just think so. For the last 15 years, I've watched this aquarium in my school, and I've loved it so much, and just see the values of it. Anyway, so thank you so much for doing this for all of us in the Victoria School area, and further, I guess, in all of Greater Victoria. So it's amazing. Thank you for your passion.
You're welcome. Well, actually, thank you, because it's wonderful to see teachers like you take off with it. It's really, really nice, and how much it influences so many kids' lives.
It does.
But we
And
need people like you
Aw.
to do that.
Well, thank you so much. Well, my hope is that it's the future. I always just think, how can we keep going further and looking after our marine life, and the oceans? That's so critical for all of us. So
Are you okay if I also send out your school email in case any teacher who watches this have questions about your project or how you're using the Seaquarium specifically for informational reading and writing?
Definitely. Oh, yes, definitely. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to stop the recording here. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you. Thanks